How's it going, guys? Today we're going to be taking a look at a game I am extremely excited for that will hopefully be releasing this year, and that is going to be the Invincible. And if that name sounds a little familiar to you, you might be a big fan of sci-fi. And it's exactly what you're thinking. It is a game that is going to be kind of not exactly straight based off, but in the world of the book called The Invincible, written by Stanislaw Lem, who is an extremely talented and awarded writer in the science fiction genre. Probably the biggest book that he wrote was called Solaris, and he has just built a fantastic universe and a really big following. So this game is not exactly taken one-to-one from the book, but you're going to see a lot of things that are very similar to it. So they already have a fantastic world built out for them, and I am extremely excited for it. But before we get too into it, I do want to say that this is going to be a spoiler warning. We're going to be hopping into a demo that was just released for this game, and this demo takes place in the middle of the game. So if you've read the book, you might not be surprised, but if you're kind of wanting to go into this blind, you might want to not watch this. So just a heads up, some of the things we're going to be talking about and the gameplay that'll be going on in the background is taking place on the in the middle of the game. So if you want to go into it blind, I appreciate you stopping by, and I'll hopefully see you on another one of my videos. But other than that, let's get into it. So like I said, this game is basically in this universe from the book The Invincible, its namesake, which was written by Stanislaw Lem. This guy, he's done so much for the science fiction genre, and there's actually planets named after him, as well as a star and craters, things like that. Lots of stuff in space are named after either characters from his books or just the man himself. So that already has me extremely excited. This game's been in production for about 5 years, close to 6, and it's being developed by Starward Industries. Now, this company, it is a new company that basically this is going to be their flagship game coming out. A lot of the individuals that are working on these teams, I was taking a quick look at some of the leads, come from some pretty big companies that have worked on things like The Witcher 3, Cyberpunk 2077, Dead Island, Dying Light, and if you could tell, a lot of these employees come from CD Projekt Red, so hopefully they've learned from their time in the industry and they're going to deliver a fantastic product on release. And I think this game might be a little bit less ambitious than what Cyberpunk was, so I'm optimistic. Now I'm going to hop into the gameplay that I actually got to take part in, and so if you are afraid of spoilers, definitely drop off right here because you might not want to see more. So getting into it, you will be playing as a extremely qualified, sharp-witted astrobiologist named Yasna, who is currently looking for her lost crewmates. You are trying to find this convoy. I'm assuming, you'll have a lot more information based off the earlier missions, why exactly you are here and what you are looking for. But as far as we're aware, we're looking for this group of crewmates that have kind of gone ahead of her. So she's following them up. And just right off the bat, not even thinking about the story, the world itself looks fantastic. Definitely feels like a space game. Definitely looks very, very good. The physics themselves, I'm sure they're still working on them. There's a lot of things that were kind of funky. And since this is a demo, you're definitely going to be limited in gameplay, where you can go. And obviously, this is not the final polish for the game, but in itself, really, really great for a demo, I have to say. So you're going to hop in this car, which I'm excited to see, which means we're going to be seeing a lot of vehicles. They've already talked about that. On the Steam page, you can see that they do talk about how you're going to be able to drive hopefully multiple types of vehicles. I'm hoping it's not just one type, this little rover, but in itself, still pretty cool. Drives pretty nice too. It'd be nice if you had some more free reign, but generally with story-driven games, you're probably just going to be able to go specifically where they want you to, but regardless, worked well. And through this demo, we'll see a lot of the technology that we're going to be interacting with, I would assume, in most parts of the game. Now, looking at just mechanics, it was a lot of fun because they make you do what might seem like kind of like menial tasks when you're playing a game. Like generally you would just, if you want to open a door, you'll just open the door. But in this game, instead of just pressing a button, you'll have to actually go through the actions of opening the door. You might have to put a key in. You're going to have to turn the key. You're going to have to grab the handle, turn the handle, and you'll be either doing these inputs with your mouse or with your keyboard. And it is directional, so it's like if you have to turn something to the right, you're either going to move your mouse to the right or you're going to press the D key. And for me, in a single player story driven game, that type of interaction, I just feel like it's very, very enjoyable. Makes it really feel like you are there, part of the story. And I understand it might be frustrating because it's like, yo, I just want to open this door. I don't want to go through all this hassle. But that hassle kind of builds the tension because, at least for the part that we're in, it's a very high stress situation. So she does end up finding part of her convoy, and you get to see these antimatter machines. They call them, I think, antimatter tanks, and they're, just giant, exactly antimatter cannons that can walk. It looks pretty similar to some of the things you see in War of the Worlds. I like that. And you get to watch these slides, which I thought was very cool. Again, you have to go through pressing all the buttons yourself to get the slides out, but it does a very good job of telling the story. And this whole time you're going to be talking to your astrogator, which is basically kind of your commanding officer. But this astrogator, Novik, is going to be kind of walking with you, for lack of better terms, as you kind of have this dialogue with them the whole time. And it seems like from what they've talked about, this person is maybe not exactly the same one the whole time, but your astrogator is going to be there with you through the game for the most part. So this dialogue does a very good job of kind of explaining the things that are going on that don't make a lot of sense because we don't have really any other information outside of this little demo. And you'll come to find out that this antimatter cannon actually turned on all of the humans, and it killed a lot of them. I don't know if it got all of them, but there's definitely a lot of dead bodies all around. So you'll make your way through this tunnel. You'll find this robot, which is called an Arctan, and this robot is holding this crate that has obviously something that the team before you was looking for. You'll come to find out that there's these metal bushes that might actually be organisms, and you'll see with one of the pieces of technology you're able to use, which is kind of like a metal detector, but it actually goes through the walls. They just call it a detector, but what you're seeing is metal for the most part, and these bushes are actually made of metal. And what they collected was actually the fruit from these bushes, which doesn't seem like it is something that was done previously or something that is known to Yasna. So they're extremely interested. For some reason, Yasna's having a bad time here. I don't know if maybe the pressure is extremely intense or there's some type of environmental variable that is causing her to have such a terrible time. But you'll end up following this Arctan back outside to where the antimatter cannons were, and you'll see that it's getting back up. And obviously, you're going to have a bad time if it's actually operational, because if you look to the left while you're reading the slides, you could see that its task was actually eliminate. And it's actually one of the things that they actually touch on, so it's nice that they bring that up for you. So, obviously you're probably just going to die. Luckily, for some reason, not upset, it decides not to shoot you. It does, however, blow up that Arctan, so the containers that we were trying to collect are no longer available. You'll make your way through, you'll see this giant force field, you'll find a lot of other vehicles as well as dead space members, and you're basically just trying to find some type of container that has these flies. Now, you'll get into the rover that was part of the convoy from before and listen to the recordings with their conversation with their astrogator, and you'll come to find out that they've actually discovered this organism, for lack of a better term. They're not sure if it's alive, but they say that it resembles the body of an insect. And when you bring these organisms together, which are made of that metal, they actually start to fly. And if you get a lot of them together, they'll actually start to swarm. And we're not 100% sure if this had any impact on exactly what was going on, but they do mention that they're extremely intelligent and that they kind of might have an impact on technology. This led me to believe that maybe, it's these things that actually messed with the antimatter cannons, maybe reprogram them or something. That's the fun part, you have no idea. And basically, you'll have to find yourself a way into this force field where you'll finally get your hands on these flies, which will lead you to a ginormous swarm that is even able to be seen from space. The whole planet looks like it's going black from the view of your astrogator. And that's where you're going to leave off, with this giant swarm of these flies, for lack of better terms, that's what they're calling them, attacking you. Now, if you read the book, you'll notice that this is extremely similar to what happens in the book. So I'm interested to see how much they adapt from the book and what is actually their own interpretation of just kind of using the world for this game. Now, just from this short little 20-minute demo, I found a lot of things that I was really enjoying, especially the storytelling. I feel like the storytelling was done very, very well. It was very easy for you to be led to kind of dialogue points that gave you just a lot of information on what was going on. Information that there's no way you would be able to infer it yourself, because it's all things from this sci-fi universe. And I think they did a fantastic job leading the player, not exactly forcing you to do specific things, but regardless of what you did, you ran into something that would lead to more dialogue that would push you in a certain direction. And I felt that it was done very, very well. In regards to mechanics, while we don't see a whole lot of technology, there's obviously going to be a ton of gadgets that are going to be doing a lot of things for you. It's interesting because, you know, we're in the space race and we're still using this somewhat old style analog technology, which I find very interesting. It's actually something that they touch on. And so I'm interested to see what other technologies that we're going to run into in the game. I would assume that you're going to run into a lot of other robots. You're going to run into, hopefully, a lot of other humans. And through that, we're going to be traveling this fantastic universe that Starboard Industries has come to create. The last really fun piece of kind of like mechanic, I guess, or feature that I really enjoyed about this game is that it is a dialogue-driven game, and you are given choices during the dialogue. So depending on what dialogue you choose, you might get certain pieces of information that are useful. And you can actually just kind of choose the personality of Yasna, which I really enjoyed. Sometimes you're just kind of telling your astrogator to shove it, for lack of better terms. And I think that's really fun because while, you know, you might have only 1 to 2 to 3 choices, you're at least able to have some impact on what that other person is saying to you. And I'm betting this is going to expand a lot and your choices are going to have actual real impacts on what's going on. That is about all I know so far looking into this game. It is shaping up to be an extremely fun, enjoyable game, I have to say. And the universe itself is what I think I'm most excited about. It's been a while since I personally played a single-player game that was sci-fi in nature, so I'm looking forward to just playing another sci-fi game. The mechanics look very fun for a dialogue-driven game. You might not be having the most intense, you know, you're not ducking, you're not dodging, you're not fighting things, but what you do get to interact with makes it feel like you are in this universe. And I think that's probably what they're exactly going for, which is very, very fun. The art and the animation for a demo looked fantastic, so I'm excited to see what the final polish is going to look like when the game does fully release, hopefully this year. So suffice it to say, I'm extremely excited for this game to release, and I hope that we get some more content from Starboard Industries in the future, maybe a little bit more gameplay, and maybe a little bit more of an understanding on exactly the world that we're going to be playing in. So, as always, guys, appreciate you stopping by, appreciate the likes and subscriptions, and I hope to see you on the next one.